Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, Brother Brand Ambassador, and I have a surprise for you today. A great project, but I kind of gave you a little heads up last week. I was going to be at the beach with all of my nieces and nephews, and guess what? I'm live. I decided, you know what? It was interim between fishing, which they caught some big fish, and now they're all putting their suits on to go to the pool. It's too cold to swim in the beach. So I thought, hey, you know what? I have an hour. I don't want to miss this live, so you can ask questions. So, speaking of the beach, I have a fun project for you today. Now, I'm going to make mine a little more glamorous, but a couple years ago, I got this super cute bag from a fishing tournament. Isn't it cute? So you can put stuff in it. It has like the twisty ties, so I can put it on my back or just carry it like this. And I use this all the time in the car. I'll throw my shoes in there or my sandals or my workout clothes, and I want to change at the office, all the little things. And it's not that big. So I thought, you know what? I need something for the beach to put sunscreen, my sunglasses, my wallet, you name it. So why not make this out of mesh and make it super cute and maybe a little luxurious? So all you need for this project, by the way, is some mesh fabric. I found some for under $4 a yard. Actually, I think it was under $3 a yard. Not a Brother product, of course, but if you do some searching, you can find it or message me. I'll send you in the right spot. So before I get rolling, I see you all in here, and yes, I really am live today. We took a little break. The kids were going to come in here too, but then, the pool obviously won. So don't take it personally. All right, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful week. And let me teach you how to make this mesh bag. Now, one thing, this is not on the Brother blog because this is just a project I'm doing live. So follow along. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to Brother's YouTube channel. You can come back and watch this over and over. And if you're on Facebook, share it to your page. That's the easiest way to watch it over. So I'll give you all the details, everything that goes into it, but I'm not going to repeat it. So follow along, and then you can always watch the replay. So, all right, everyone, it's wonderful to see you. Let's go. I have this up here. Wait till you see how cute this is. Marie, I'm with you. Well, it's not a break from my nieces and nephews, but I'll tell you what, they have a lot of energy. And for those of you that follow me on social, I'll be sharing a photo later today on Instagram and Facebook of the ice cream setup that I did for them last night. So I put a huge 12-foot table outside with a big cover, 4 kinds of ice cream, 2 whipped creams, sprinkles, chocolate, caramel. I know I'm missing something. And there are marshmallows and a few other things that are branded names that aren't Brother. And they take our order and they make our ice cream. So I'll be sure to take a video of it tonight because I'm sure there's going to be a replay. It's a lot of fun, though. If any of you need tips on how to do an ice cream setup, I got you covered. So, all right. So in the meantime, let's talk about preparing for the beach, putting something for your sunscreen, your sunglasses, or a bag for your car for your workout clothes. Any of those will do. Let me take this down. Where? Hold on one second. I've got an extra camera here. There she is. All right. Now, that's the ironing board. We don't need to go there yet. First, let's go to the supplies table. And as you can see there, that's a mesh fabric. So what kind of fabric could you use for this? A few different ideas come to mind, but this one here that I received at a fishing tournament is just kind of like a waterproof, rainproof type of fabric. I thought mesh would be kind of nice because then if it gets sand in it, it'll just fall out. And also it's easy to care for. You could use anything from like a rain stop fabric. A waxed canvas would be kind of cool, but it would need some scrunching up if you use waxed canvas because it's kind of stiff when you first get it. So I would use something a little softer, and you'll see why when I finish. But I would love to know your comments, what fabric you would like to use for this. Hey, Zena, great to see you. All right, everyone, let's go to the table and start this fun project. I know, Zena, I was not going to be live, but I took a one hour break because I couldn't stand to miss you guys all week, right? I have this pre-recorded too, but that's no fun. All right, so I take off one of my rings here because it snags the fabric. So this is just mesh fabric. Inexpensive. I found it at a local fabric store in the utility fabric section. I didn't even know that section existed. So what I've cut here is a piece bigger than I need. Now you could make this bag any size. So if you want to put beach balls and stuff, then obviously make it bigger. I'm going to make a smaller one here. Here's one that's like a medium size that you can see. So this is kind of the idea that I came up with that's a little different. I added 2 rows of nice trim at the top. And at the bottom here, I added 2 corners. Now the other one had little rivets or grommets, I would say, to put the strings through. But our brother machines have such awesome buttonholes. Why not add a buttonhole? So this is an example of what we're going to be doing today. I haven't put the strings in yet, but you'll see that here shortly. Here's another mesh that I found. This one is a little bit thicker. This is a fun color, but wait till you see what I found to match it. Check this out. Don't those look the same? This was on a clearance rack. So I found this where I could use for a handle. I might turn this one into more of a backpack. But back to the white. So these are going to be, one of these is I'm going to give to my niece. She loves pink, I think more than I do. So you have your mesh fabric. How much mesh fabric do you need? Well, let's go back to that. This is the selvage edge here. See how it's finished? So I just cut this selvage to selvage. If I wanted a bigger bag, I'd use this whole piece. And this right here is 24 inches wide, okay? 24 inches wide by whatever width the fabric is. We're making a smaller one, so I'll give you all my dimensions just so you have these and you can write them down. Again, there's not a blog post for this on Brother, but you can watch this video over. This one here, I used 1/2-inch seam allowances. So this one is 16 inches wide by 18 inches times 2. 36 inches. All right, so, and if I lay this next to the other one, I'll know exactly how wide I want to make it. So as far as the length is concerned, I should say the length for the bag, but actually that's the selvage of the fabric. So I'm cutting this a little different. Let's go ahead and the bottom part is the fold. So you don't need a seam on the bottom. That makes it just a little stronger if you put a bunch of heavy stuff in there. So let's just compare this. I'm going to cut this 16 inches wide. And I'm not sure if I grabbed a sharp rotary cutter. Everybody's been playing in my studio this week, so who knows? Oh, hey, we got lucky. All right, and then how long do we want the bag to be? What about, let's see, how long did I do this one? And remember, it's on the fold at the bottom. This one was okay. So this section up here, this is actually the top of the bag, and then I added this trim below it. So let's go with 18 inches. Let's make it a little shorter. We'll go 17 inches. All right, so that's your piece for the bag. There's the top. This is the fold at the bottom, and these are the sides. The other supplies you're going to need, this is just a belt, like you'd use for a belt fabric. It's not fabric, it's trim, but it's kind of like a belt. You could also use any type of really pretty ribbon. Just make sure it's something that you can throw in the wash because you want to be able to take care of it easily and quickly. You need 2 of these. Now, depending on how wide you make your bag, this is kind of like, this is your project, right? So however wide you made your bag at the top, slide this down, you need 2 of these pieces, and you need this to be a 1/2 inch longer on each side. If you want to be safe, go 1 inch longer on each side. See how I made it just a little bit longer? So that's one piece. And I need 2 of those because you have 2 tops. Last I checked. All right. Again, you make your bag however wide you want it, but this is mine. And make these 2 inches longer. You also need double bias tape. Now you can make your own or you can purchase it. They come in packages. Really not too expensive. So this it's a double fold. And this one is, I think this is it 1 inch wide? Hold on, pretty sure. Yeah, 1 inch wide. So you can see it's folded and then it has 2 edges folded. It's cut on the bias. You can use this for hemming, a lot of fun things. You're going to need 2 of these, and you need them also the same width as the belting. There's one, and there's the other. Okay, if it's really wrinkled, make sure you give this a little pressing before you get rolling. You have that. And then you need something for the strings for the bag, right? So for the navy bag that I showed you, this one here, I found this fun ribbon. How much do you need? Well, this is how you're going to have to do your math on this. All right, if I lay this bag out, I'll show you how to measure how much trim you need. So one piece, I'm going to put this kind of on an angle so you can see this whole side here. One piece needs to start at the bottom, and you have a little hangover. Oh, not literally. Hang over. All right, here, go up to the top. It's going to go through the top, and then back, and then down, and it's going to go back through the bottom here. So that right here is for one side. You need that times 2. So to give you an idea, I bought 5 yards of this one, and this will go for the navy bag. And then for the pink bags, which I'm going to make a few of those, I found this great trim that has every color. They're going to love this, but mostly it has pink, which is the most important. So I bought 4 yards of this. It's all they had. So before I finish this bag, I want to double check the length to make sure I have enough. Because if I don't, guess what? It's your project and you can make it any length you want. All right. So here's the bottom part. This is the fold. It's going to have to start here, go up, all the way over, all the way back, and all the way down. Perfect. That's one piece. So this one was 2 yards, and this piece is 2 yards. So I have plenty. So to give you an idea, the measurements that I gave you on here for the one that I'm making right now with you is, let's see, for the width, we are a total of 16 inches. So this will be the top of the bag where we have all of our trims. That's 16 inches wide. Each of these are 17 or 18 inches. If you want to be safe, make them a little longer. There you go. And then for the entire bag piece, which this is on the fold, you have, if you're copying mine, I should say, to be exact, about 35.5 to 36 inches, somewhere in there. Okay. You're going to need one more thing, which I'll take you to the ironing board for that. But do you see what I did at the bottom of these? I needed some support. Now, the other bag is a solid bag, and it had just an extra piece of fabric. I thought, well, why not take one of these bias pieces, put it on the triangle, I'll attach it to the bottom, and put a buttonhole there, and that's how we'll get our strings to go through. So don't throw away any of the extra that you cut from this. You're going to need a few short pieces, and we'll do that at the end. All right, let's get rolling. So the first thing I want to do, you'd think that we would sew the sides together first. Nope, we're going to sew the white trim on the top. Now the white one is where this is going to go through. So you need to make sure you have enough room. I found this tool. If anybody knows what this is called, then no, it's not a Brother product. But I found this years ago. We're talking like eons, 25 years ago at a sewing show. And this, you can actually, it's kind of cool. You can put the trim through here, if I can find the end, and run it through the bag. So you just need to make sure that however much room you leave for this white bias on the top, that you can get your trim through it, regardless if you're using a tool like this or a bobby pin or safety pin, anything like that. So you just need to make sure you have enough room for that. So let's go ahead to the sewing machine and bring your bag and your 4 pieces of trim. And on the way there, I'll check real quick to see if you have any quick questions that I missed that you might need at this stage of the project. All right, what do we have? This is so much fun, guys. It's so easy, too. Yeah, Kay, I thought that was a good idea, too. Oh, okay, you'll have to message me on that. It's not a brother product, but it's fun. Oh, Bev, well, we're giving you lots of love if you're in the hospital. You need a mesh bag for all your things to bring back and forth to the hospital. I thought so, too. Thanks, Zena. Yeah, if you like this project, don't forget to like it so brother knows that. The mystery tool. Oh, thanks, Kay. You guys all have it. Okay, let's go back. I'll take you back to the sewing machine. And on the way, this one bias piece just needs a quick pressing. I didn't think you needed to see that. I'll give you the visual for it, though. I'm just pressing the wrinkles from the package out. Now, you could make your own, too, and that would be kind of fun. Maybe you have some fabric that you have laying around that would be a lot of fun with this that would match. All right, so here's my bag. Here's one end. Here's the other end. Just fold this out of the way. I'm going to choose a straight stitch, so I'll click on sewing. I'm using the Brother Luminaire. I would love to know what Brother machine you have too, by the way. Leave it in the comments. Some of you purchased some new ones recently. All right, over here, click on straight stitch. I like my stitch to be in the center. That's just my preference. And I'll choose a stitch length of, let's go with a 3.0. Okay. Hey, Blinky's behaving today so far. Must be a good day. All right, so I'm going to take this, put it on the edge. You could always, if you needed to pin this in place, you could. I'm not going to. I'm literally going to fold this, open this up, line the mesh edge right up to this edge here. Now, if you're a real newbie at sewing, you could open this entire bias tape and stitch this to the edge of the bias, just like this. I'll start it just that way for a second. So if you're totally new at sewing and you're like, I don't even know if I can do this straight stitch, well, you have your laser light. Let me turn that down a little bit. You have your laser light that will help it. See how I sewed that right to the edge? I'm just going to lay it here and sew, because then I'm going to fold it like this. But if you're new at sewing, we'll do the first one like that, because I always love when somebody joins the show and they're like, I'm totally new at sewing. Give me some tips. So I'm lining the edge of this fabric up to the edge of the bias. And I have the bias, the double folded bias open, so it's totally flat. I forgot one thing though, but we'll survive. Okay, now this bias fabric does not fray, but I want to fold this in now. Do you see this edge here? I just want it to look neat. So now that I have this sewn to the edge, close your bias all the way. I'll throw a couple of pins in there just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Okay, see that? That's all so far. Now, I want to make sure the ends look nice though, and I also need a seam allowance for the side. So just take this and fold it in approximately 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, just like that. You could stitch it down if you want to make sure that it stays down. Otherwise, just fold it. The only reason stitching it down might be nice is when you're trying to pull all those threads through, it gets a little tricky. So let's go ahead and fold it and stitch it. Just a little tug. So I'll give you a close up here. There's the edge. There's the inside. Fabric's up to here, and now this will fold like that. We're not going to finish this edge right here because that's where your your strings are going to come out. And I also have this folded over just a little bit because once we sew our bag, the seam allowance is, well, you could use 1/4 of an inch or 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, whatever you folded this over. Now it'll lay nicely. All right, let's go to this side. This is the back, the end of your row. I don't need quite that much, so let's just cut that off. I always give myself a little extra because there are a few ways that you can do this. If I wanted to fold it over first, I could have done that. I'm going to do this again, fold it over. I'm doing this particularly with this bag because if you saw those strings that are going to go through, they're a little thicker than the one for the blue bag. And they could technically get stuck at the end here. We don't want that. All right, there you go. Fold this in half. So now we're going to stitch from one end all the way to the other, enclosing that bias. Make sure I folded these the right way. Yeah. So this is on the inside of the bag. I prefer to top stitch from the right side of the bag, so I'm flipping it over, in case you're wondering why I just did that. That's why. Now you have a ton of decorative stitches. You should consider using one of them now. That would be a great time to use this. All right, stitch all the way down. And I'm just stitching maybe 1/8 of an inch from the edge. So this bag, how long does it take? I'll tell you what, this bag is so fast and easy to make. You're going to be very impressed. All right, so there's the top edge. Now we have the pink edge. And I could lower it a little bit and leave mesh open. But when you do that, when I scrunched this up, it ended up being kind of messy. So I'm going to butt it up and just overlap, just maybe 1/16 of an inch. I'm just barely overlapping this because I want plenty of room to be able to get my string through. And this is just for decoration. Now this one, because we've already folded over this edge, I'm going to take this, just like this, look close. I'll flip it over like that. So again, I have my seam allowance folded in there. And there. I'll go ahead and put a pin here just to hold it in place. You could pin it all the way down. You'll watch. I'm going to give you some tips for sewing this without pins. You can just sew a little bit, lift it up and check, and sew. All right, so if you notice, the raw edge of my fabric is totally even with this belted area. Tuck this under. I'm tucking them both under together. And I'll bring you just a little bit closer here. Whoop. Whoa. Hope you had your coffee this morning. KK, you were asking about my watch. It even tells me that somebody from spam was calling me. You got to love that. Don't they know we're busy here? Now, when you get to this edge here, if you have any issues stitching or having skipped stitches, don't forget about this black button on your foot. And how that works is you lift up your foot, push the black button in, and it'll level it off. Then put your foot back down, and it will pop off when you're level, which I'm already level. So at the end, I'll show you it again. Now, I'm not going to use pins for this. I'm literally going to watch closely that the edge of this, because this is a finished edge, lines right up along my top stitching there that I did on the white. I wanted to stitch through the binding. It's just a little more secure than the mesh. And this part is really just for decoration. But I picked a fabric that is sturdy enough that if for some reason I had a lot of stuff in my bag, it would help to keep that mesh connected to the bias. All right, again, I'm stitching. I'm just placing and putting my finger right on the edge. And see how if I leave my finger there, I can stitch without using a pin. Again, line this up. I'm holding it down and letting the machine do its work. Now, when you're holding it down, make sure you're not pulling it. You're just using this as a guide. We'll get closer to the end. I don't need that much. So I'll go ahead and just trim off just a little bit off the end. And fold this under so it matches the white one. And let's sew off. Now, we also need to sew down the other end. So get to the end, lift up your presser foot. See how you can see this is folded under right where the seam allowance is. Get to the end, and now we're going to sew back. I'm using white thread for this, one, so you can see it. Contrasting thread makes it a little easier. And I know I wasn't using white or a different color on the white, which I could have, but I really didn't feel like changing threads for you. And I think you get the idea. But the white looks nice on this pink, and also you'll be able to see it just a wee bit better. And if you're just logging in, don't worry, I'm going to sew the other side. And I am live, so keep your questions rolling in. I'll try to gather them at the end. A lot of times when I'm doing a live show on my own, I don't see the questions until the end. So if I miss it, be sure to ask again when I come back to the screen, okay? And don't sew over the ends of the white. That's your opening for your strings. The pink is decoration. All right? Oh my gosh, I made this for my nieces. I think I'm going to have one of these, because you all know my favorite color is pink, and this looks amazing. See how nice that looks? And then the back side has the mesh with the binding. Okay, so now take your bag, making sure that you have to sew this side and then slide it all the way down. So you know that this is the right side. That's what I mean. Leave your fabric nice and flat. Slide it all the way down to the other end, and let's do it again. So, right side, right side. Just slide this over. And this time, I'm going to do it a different way if you're just a little bit speedier. Fold this edge. Oops, sorry. No, you know what? I kind of liked it the other way. See what happens? Sometimes the way that I think is faster, sometimes it's just easier and more accurate when I'm trying to do it for a beginner, which this is much faster. Okay, I'm opening my binding and I'm stitching all the way to the end. What seam allowance? It really doesn't matter here because you're going to enclose this. I'm just basically lining up the edge of my bias and the edge of my mesh on top of each other to the edge of my foot. And I have my needle in the center position. So it's probably like 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch to be exact. Okay, what do we have now? So now, fold your bias. Remember, I changed it a little bit, so now I'm going to cut this right to the edge of the fabric. Fold this in. Let me just make sure that I have this right, because I want to make sure nope, I didn't. Look what I did. This is the right side, and this is not the right side. So, because I switched my idea. So let's go with, will that work? Not really. Do I really want to cut that off? No. And this side needs to close this way. So my seam allowances have to be over there. So I have an idea. Let's go to the table. Why wouldn't I? Of course I would do that, because we're live. And I changed my idea for how I was going to sew this on. So that's what really screwed me up. Okay, well, we're not ripping this out. I have a way better idea. Our bag just got shorter. Yep, I'm doing it. I've got plenty of this tape. So line this up, and there we go. Like it never happened. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at this a little closer, not on the machine. So this is the back side, and what I did is I actually sewed it where when I went to close it, it would be opposite. And I need my seam allowances, these little seam allowances, facing in. I think I had too much ice cream last night. All right, I got a whole nother package of this. I keep this around all the time. All right, so since we changed the sewing order a little bit different than the way I originally did it, first of all, let me make sure that that's a straight line. It is. And let's line this up. I always cut it a little bit longer because I can always cut it off. Now, let's take a look at this. This is the other end. The seam allowances need to face in, so this needs to face in. So how I originally sewed this is I turned this in and sewed it like that. But because adding that piece first, that made it a little easier. So, well, it depends who you're asking, I guess. So let's throw a few pins in there just to make sure. So when I get to the machine, I don't do this backwards. Oh, we're plenty of time. I actually made the bag in about 15 minutes, making a few tweaks. Well, this one will be a little longer because I sewed it on backwards. All right, so for those of you that are trying to follow, there's the outside. The seam allowances are facing under. This one now, when I sew it and turn it in like this, my seam allowances are facing in. So in and in. That should do it. That should do the trick. Now, by the way, what I had mentioned at the beginning, though, is if you're really proficient at sewing, you could just turn this under, fold this, and make one stitch. You don't have to do it twice, okay? Depends how fast you're moving. So let's go try this and see if this works. Or the bag's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Oh, take it to the sewing machine with me. Speaking of beach bags, do any of you have any great plans this weekend? Summer is officially here. And our beach is a little cold right now. But the weather's gorgeous, so we're not complaining. And I don't think kids even realize that it's cold. I mean, I'm not getting in, but they love it. Oh, just poked myself. All right. Here you go. Now, now the seam allowances should, this one's facing in and this one is facing in. Okay, much better. I did like this way, though, of sewing this side down. It'll just make it easier to get those huge straps through. Now, depending on what sewing machine you're using, you could have your foot pedal, if you have the dual foot pedal, schedule it for putting your needle up, your presser foot down, and all of those things as well. That makes it sewing even faster. All right, now this one's white on white. I know it's a little hard to see, but don't worry, the pink is coming. So this is the one again. Let me just double check again that there's the right side. And if I scroll all the way down, and all right, they're both facing the right way. I like to top stitch from the right side of the fabric, so I will flip this around. Why? Because top stitching, I'm so used to top stitching garments, and you always top stitch from the right side of the garment. Okay, there's the foot. I wanted to mention this one more time. I'm going to do a couple stitches, and now lift up your presser foot, push in the little black button, Put this down. Oops, I must be level already. But if you're having problems getting over the edge, that's what you do. So again, I'm just stitching on the edge. This is double folded. Remember, pre-folded. So it stays in place. I'm just folding it and stitching along the edge. Do a little back stitch. You don't want that to rip out. And then, making sure you're on the right side, grab your trim. Fold this under. This is where the black button might come in handy. See how it stayed in this time? That will keep my foot level until it gets over that front edge. Now when you're stitching, don't start right at the very edge. I'm starting in about 1/4 of an inch because I can go back over that stitch when I come around. But if you start at that very edge and try to get rolling on here, you're probably going to end up with a skip stitch. Or you'll start sewing and your machine will just sit there and do a gazillion stitches. Has that ever happened to you? Don't worry, you're not the only one. Okay, I'm just lining this up right on my previous line of stitching. So I'm stitching this right to the bias binding. We don't need all this extra, so I'll go ahead and trim this off. And now fold it under so it matches up with the edge of your white bias. I think I still have too much in there. Let's fold it under, cut it a little more off. I know, I don't think I have big enough scissors for this job. There we go, and down. That was a little messy right there. I might go back and do that, but not live. We'll just finish this bag. I can always tuck it under a little bit more. Grab that little seam ripper. Of course, it's a bag. Who's going to notice, right? Yeah, and it's going to be all scrunched up. Now remember, I started in just a little bit, so now I'll turn this and line it up right with that previous stitch line and do another back stitch. That's what it ends up looking like. So I did a little back stitch here and one more here, and that looks really nice. All right, let's go back to the table. I think you'll see this better at the table, and I'll show you how I'm going to sew the bag. You could use a serger sewing machine. The mesh really doesn't fray, which is a bonus. All right, before I go there, any other questions for me about the sewing? If you popped in late, you'll have to watch from the beginning for all the measurements for the bag, but you're going to love it. It's super easy. So right now I have this side and this side. This could make a cute top. A little vest. Squirrel. All right, let's stay focused on the bag. All right, super cute. So now I'm going to take this and put it wrong sides together, just like that. Wrong sides together. And I don't think I really need to pin this. So let's just take this out for a second. You can see I already have the seam allowances turned in from these corners. So lay this flat and start sewing just below this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I want some extra room at the top. I'll take you to the table. You'll see it better. Oh, this will be good for the cruise. I think it's going to be fabulous for the cruise in February. Good idea, Mary. Okay. And if you don't know about that, you can email me or make sure you sign up for my newsletter, and you'll know more about that. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to fix. See how it's just a little messy? I'm not doing that live, though, and I can do it later, because if I want to line these up at the top, just fold this like this, And I will stitch from here about an inch below where this is. Why? Because if I stitch from here for half an inch seam allowance or whatever all the way down, all the seam allowances will turn in, and then my bag will have a little bit of extra room to put stuff in. So this is tight and this has a little stretch. Just gives you a little more room to throw your things in. If you've got a little narrow area, I mean, it's not much. We're talking like an inch on each side. So measure down 1 inch. I'll put a pin in there just so you can see it. Yeah, about 1 inch. There's a pin. I will stitch from here all the way down to the fold on both sides. So let's go to this one. And because I'm going down 1 inch here, I can come back and fix this later. Not a big deal. Or, like I said, it's a beach bag, and I might just leave it. If you all see me on the beach, at the pool, at the gym, you can say, hey, you know what? I'll bet you that's Angela's bag. There you go. Stitch from here down. I'm going to change the stitch length to a little narrower this time, so 2.5, just because I want that extra stability for the bag. You could also stitch it and then run it through the serger. This fabric does not fray, so I really did not find the need to do that. So there's my pin. Let's bring this up about a ½ inch seam allowance. Put your needle down, get that pin out. Don't sew over pins. That's never a good idea. Oh, change my stitch length. I'm going to go a little bit smaller. 2.5. When I get to the end, I'll do a really good back stitch here. Flip it over and do the other side. Believe it or not, our bag is just about finished, but I have something fun for the corners that we're going to do. Of course, if you have grommets, have at it. So why do I stitch from the top edge to the folded edge at the bottom? Well, mesh is really slinky, and if I started from the bottom and sewed up, I have a pretty high probability of having this off just a little bit. And I wanted this to be perfectly even up here. So little sewing tip for you, start at the top, sew down, because the bottom edge is a fold, and it'll look fine when you get to the bottom, no matter what you do. All right, now I'm going to take you to the ironing board, because this is where we're going to get a little bit creative on how we finish the bottom. So if you forgot or you joined late, let me just show you this part of what we're doing. So this part here, you can see what this bag has. They put a little bit of extra support inside the bag, which I totally could have done that, or outside. And then they put a grommet to put the strings through. Well, we have these fabulous brother machines. I don't need a grommet. I could make a gorgeous buttonhole. Why not, right? But I cannot put a buttonhole in this mesh. It's not going to hold. Well, it might until you put something in the bag, and then it'll rip out. So I'll show you what I came up with. And it's kind of easy. You don't need anything extra, just a little bit of extra bias, which you saw I have a whole package. So make sure you don't have any questions before I move on. Grommets are annoying, Kay says. Oh, you know what would look really cool on this, Kay? You're talking about embroidery. A big monogram on this would be so cool. Out of pink, like a pink cotton fabric, do the monogram and then cut around it and wash it and make it all kind of, I don't know, rough edged. Oh, that'd be so cute. I think I could still do that. On my persona, this would fit right in there. Good idea. Well, then everybody would know who their bags are. You know, like kind of like last night when we had the big ice cream party, all 15 people took water bottles, and I pulled out my little pen and marked at the top for everybody's waters. And those waters are still there for tonight. The bag, if I put a monogram, would be perfect. All right, let me show you my idea for doing the end. Oh, thanks, Susie. And by the way, if you guys make this bag, you have to tag me because I would love to see. I love giving you a little inspiration and seeing what you do with it. All right, so we're at the ironing board. Make you a little lighter here so you can see what's going on. There we go. All right. This is the inside of the bag. Just go to the end and flip it. So you have a nice edge here. And the other end too. Poke it so you have a nice corner. You can press if you want. I don't really need to, but I will. Again, I'm using an iron shoe. For those of you that follow me, if you're not, mesh could melt, so make sure that you use a press cloth. Oh, let's give the top one more pressing. You know me, I'm a pressing freak. And I'll go ahead and use Mary's clapper since she left it here. Mary, if you're watching, you'll have to come get your clapper one of these days. There, this looks fantastic. Now, what about the corners? What am I thinking for the corners? Well, look, take a closer look at the blue bag that I did, which is right here. See how I added this little corner here? It looks just like the other bag, right? Now it gives me a little more support. I forgot I had all this hanging. Okay, so when I ask you guys later where my little tool is to run everything through here, be sure you tell me it's on the floor in the blue bag because you just threw it there. So here's my double bias. Give it a little pressing. Remember, this fabric doesn't fray. So if I take this to the corner, let's see. If I fold this under, so watch closely. This took me like 3 times to figure this out. Slide this under the fold. Fold this over. And then fold this side over. It ends up being a perfect triangle, but I pressed it before I put it on. So take this, fold it 45 degrees. Those of you that know quilting, just pretend you're doing like a really cool corner. And now take this side and fold it over. I have the bias tape still folded though. So what I did is I just opened this up, so it's double folded. I opened it up and then did this fold. So there's the fold and here's a fold. The fabric doesn't fray, so I'm not going to worry about finishing the edges. Besides, it's a beach bag / gym bag / hospital bag, depending on what we're talking about here. Okay, now open this up and just cut this off, but be careful not to cut off the fold of your bias. So there's one. That's my iron, by the way. That's not my stomach. All right, let's do it again. I'm going to fold this over just a little bit just to make sure it's even. There we go. So it's 45-degree fold. Give it a pressing. The pressing will save you on this because it'll just make it nice and crisp, easy to go to the machine and sew. And the other side. Yeah, I just saw somebody saying they're going on vacation. This is a great way to throw stuff in the car, little game books for the kids, whatever. Sudoku, not a brother product, but that's my pick for the car. And the books are way better, by the way, when you're traveling for your summer events, because if they're on the tablet, they can get car sick when you're playing those. Well, speaking from experience, I guess. All right, so there's my triangles. And we're just going to pin those in place, stitch them, and then come up with a really cool buttonhole. Doesn't matter which side, just do them both on the same. Slide this in. So this is going to go right underneath that fold, gives it a little bit of extra layer there. And then fold. And fold. I have to say, this little corner even impressed myself on this one because I was trying to come up with something cute. If I stuck a fabric inside of it like the other bag, it's mesh, you'd see it, and it would look really awkward. Well, okay, I won't say that because you might do it and it'll look really cute. But in my mind, I was thinking this isn't going to work. So make sure you slide your edges close to the edge so when you stitch it in place, It doesn't look like you just attach the corner anywhere. There you go. See how nice that looks? Now, depending on how you folded this, this might just fold over just a little bit. If it doesn't, it really doesn't matter. It could just butt up against each other as well. The most important is to make sure that the fabric goes to the end of each corner. Here we go. We're just about finished. There, voila. So now to stitch this, I think I'm going to do something decorative. First, I'm going to stitch all the way around the edge to attach it. And then for the triangle, you could do a zigzag stitch or 2 rows of straight stitching. I'm going to be adding a buttonhole, but I think I'll just do a zigzag stitch because it will look nice on the back side. So let's go back to the machine and finish our corners. Oh, thanks, Deborah. I like that idea too. Thanks, Clovis. Oh, Patty, that would be a great idea. I have some suede too. The strip, by the way, Phyllis, is it's 1 inch double folded, double folded. Double folded. Say that fast, guys. I want to hear you say it. 1 inch double folded bias tape. Blah, blah, blah. Tongue tied. All right, so let's go ahead and just start at one of these other corners to make sure the fabric's right there. I'm still going to use a little bit of a smaller stitch, but I'll go with, 2.5 will be fine. Because this is decorative and purposeful. I'm stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Go, there's the center of my triangle. So my needle's in the center position and my fabric is just right inside the edge of that foot. So if you have an open toe foot, it'd be right inside that area, in case you're wondering. How do you know? Well, that's how I know how wide of a stitch I'm using. Let's go here. And now we're going to secure this in place all the way across the top. Taking care when you get to the center of that triangle that doesn't pull apart. And I know white on this machine looks really bright because of the light. I'm going to do a stay stitch. Here, I'll turn the light down just a little bit because you'll never see the buttonhole. Better? Oh, you're like, now you tell me. All right, so I want to do a zigzag stitch, or you could do a decorative stitch down here. That would look cool too. I'm going to end up doing a buttonhole across here, so I really don't need anything if I don't want to. But I'm going to go ahead and just do 2 rows of top stitching on either side of that triangle just to secure it in place. And when you do that, start at the wider end, do a stay stitch or a back stitch, lock stitch, whatever you want to call it. It's this button right here on your machine, if you have that, okay? And then stitch to the bottom, right to your previous stitch line, and do the stay stitch again. Cut, and then go up and do it all over from this end. I'm just saying that because to start stitching from that pointy corner right here, unless you do another couple tricks that I know about, which we don't have enough time to share all that today, you want to make sure your stitch looks nice. So there's my stay stitch, stitch all the way to the bottom, and stay stitch. All right, there you go. Look at how nice that looks. Okay, cut some of these threads. Perfect. Okay, let's go to the other end. Again, the same thing. Start at one of the corners, making sure your fabric, kind of maneuver your fabric to make sure it's nice and tight to that triangle. So when I first decided to do this bag for this live show for Brother, I kind of was looking around at different bags thinking, well, and they were all so big. And I really just wanted a small mesh bag, but I wanted something. If you look up for a mesh bag, you're going to find a laundry bag, which, by the way, this would be fine for that. But if you did this for a laundry bag, you would not have all of this on it because that pink could probably get all over your clothes. Or for sure it would get all over my husband's clothes, and that wouldn't be the first time. So I guess that wouldn't matter. But you don't need all of that. You just need a mesh bag. And a lot of times when you look up mesh bags, it's the other kind, that thick, it's also called mesh. It's a thick fabric. It was really hard to find something like this. So I hope you, if you decide to make this, that you definitely share pictures. Don't forget to use hashtag Brother Sews and tag me in it too, Angela Wolf. On Instagram, it's Angela Wolf Fashion. So you can tag me there. I love seeing this stuff. Put it together with one of your Angela Wolf patterns and it would be fabulous, right? Oh, the Kate skirt would look good with this. Okay, here we go. And now we're on to the last end. And I know our hour is up, but guess what? Because I messed up one of the sides, I'm giving myself another 5-minute leeway. So if you have to go to lunch, don't worry, you can come back and watch. All right, so these are my corners. Look at how nice they look. So for those of you that want to add a rivet, you could totally add a rivet. For those of you that want to add a buttonhole, you could add a buttonhole. Now, I know you weren't expecting this, but I went through the buttonholes. There are some great ones to add here. But what if your machine, you're like, I hate doing buttonholes and I don't want to do one. I have another idea for you. All right. So in the middle of the triangle, place a pin and then place a pin down here. Just like that. You just need enough room for both of your ribbons to go through, but not too much room. So for mine on the pink, let me go grab that ribbon so you can see how thick it was. And I'll also grab my original bag so you can see this. Are you guys talking about beach plans? I just saw that. All right, so here's the original. And it's right along the edge, the bottom corner. So somewhere in this area. Not right on the edge. So if I were to line these up together, about right there. So that's up about 3/4 of an inch, in case you're wondering. That's about 1/2 of an inch in between the two. I'm eyeballing it, but I do this all the time, so it's pretty accurate. I need to make sure I have enough room to get 2 of these through and tie them. And that looks pretty good. So a buttonhole here, or what about doing a solid zigzag or a tack stitch on either side? That way I can cut right in between that triangle and cut, and it'll fit through just fine. It's totally up to you. The only reason I thought of the buttonhole, though, was because on this side, it would look a little bit more professional, but this fabric won't fray and it won't matter. So, because of our constraint of time, I'm foregoing the buttonhole, and we're going to do it with the tack stitch. So I will start at the bottom one, right where my pin is. Well, let me find, you want to see which stitch I'm going to use? Don't get seasick, and don't look at my messy studio. Oh, look at that. I got a dress form in the middle of my, see if I can stand up and cover the light. It's super light outside. Okay, how about that? Let's go up here. You have a few different options. So there's the buttonholes, if you can see those. Any of these would work. Something like this would probably, one of these two would be the best to do that. I see somebody saying, just do the buttonhole. Well, you could. Or what about a tack stitch? That's a tack stitch. That's a tack stitch. And this is a tack stitch. I'm going to use something, what about, any of those would work. And if you don't have a buttonhole on your machine, just a straight stitch, well, that won't help you. You're going to need something with a zigzag. So let's just choose a zigzag like that. No, let's go with a basic zigzag, right like that. Can you see that one right there? Get the light out of there. just a basic zigzag, and I'm going to change the length down here. And it even shows me on the screen what it's going to look like. Let's make it really narrow. How about a 5.5? Looks like that. All right, back to the machine. There you go. See that okay? And yes, I'm using the Brother Luminaire. And I just want to use some chalk because I don't want to accidentally stitch over the pins. You see this chalk? All the kids have been in my studio. They put Angela Wolf with hearts all over it. I definitely feel the love when I come to work now. All right, there's a chalk mark and there's a chalk mark. Just like that. You see that? And then grab your other side, butt them up together, rub them together. And the chalk mark's transferred over here. I'll just make them a little darker. All right, so start at the top or wherever you want to, just a little bit before that opening. I actually could start at the very top and make it look like it's part of the stitching. And I'm doing this right down the center of that triangle. So I'll bring you in just a little bit closer. There you go. There's the gray line right there. And I could even make this just a little bit closer together. Cut. And I'm changing the length to be even shorter, 0.3. And all the way to the end. Well, not all the way to the end, but to as far as you can just barely see. So I covered this section here, from here to here, and then from here to here. And I'll do the other side as well. And just, if you need to make your width a little bit wider, go ahead. I'm going to do this one 4.5. I just want to see the difference. You can always go back over as long as you're making it bigger. You just can't go over if you're making it small. So I'm lining the center of that triangle up with the center of my foot. And yes, I am doing a back stitch right at the marking where the gray mark is. All right, there we go. So you're going to need some really sharp scissors, and you're going to cut right in between those two marks. Here's the deal, though. You don't want to cut too much. You could always close the hole back up. See my fingernail? And can I get two of these through here? Probably. If not, I could cut it a little bit more. So let's go ahead and cut the other one. And then does anybody remember where I put that little tool? Oh yeah, threw it on the floor. And we'll go. Now the tricky part, I have to tell you, one of the funniest and trickiest part of this was figuring out how to get this to go through the bag and make it tie tight. So that's our last step. So there you go. Now you can see if you would put a buttonhole there, that would have looked nice. The back side looks nice, whichever one you prefer. Let's head to the table and finish this thing off. Hey, Kay, I can always rely on you. Yep. I'm cracking up. I found it. The floor thing, the blue thing is on, no, the floor is on the floor with the blue thing. I got it. All right. So the trickiest part is to figure out where to put all of the rope or ties to get it to close. So I know it sounds silly, but it's true. So let's head over to the table. It's our last step, and I'll bring you up over there. If I can find the table. Here we go. Oh, Phyllis, I was thinking about adding something for my money, but for a water bottle, that's a great idea. um, Mary, so one of these which one of the textures don't you like? Because I have two here. Did you see the original one I had? So first of all, this I found, it's that really soft. I've used this before. Does this look familiar? It's really soft and satiny. I used to hand stitch this to jackets as trim. So it's like a satin ribbon. That's really nice. That's what I'm using in the blue bag. And then for the pink bag, I'm using something thicker, and this is just a braided cotton trim. All right, so let me get my little blue thingy here. Off of here. All right, so the blue one will be a little easier because it's thinner. But let's just go ahead and go for the pink one. So I have my bag finished. You can see the top, the bottoms. Make sure that you're out all the way. Nope, wrong way. There you go. Now, if I can remember. So one side needs to go through here. The first side, I should say. So you have one side through the bottom. You see that? I just tucked it right through. All right, then it comes up. So if you have a fun thingy like this, otherwise just use, I don't know, something to be able to slide this through. Okay, give me some ideas for those of you that are trying. So this is a little thicker. It's a little tricky. And this is braided. Gosh, it almost looks like embroidery thread, or, like hand embroidery thread. I love the little phrase, though. I think I'm going to fray the end. So, all right, it comes up through one of the sides. Doesn't matter which one, I don't think. Let's see, in and around. No, we'll go in the bottom one first. Through here. Let's see if stitching the ends makes it easier to get this through the end. So how would you slide your trim through? I'm just curious. Would you use a pin? All right, all the way through. Okay. And then back through this top side. So I went through, like we're looking at the top, through the bottom side. Now back in through the top one. I just heard my front door open, and I have a feeling you guys are all going to somebody's going to come and visit you. Like, is it the girls out there? Well, if you see a bunch of kids show up here, don't be in shock. So through the bottom, through the top. That's this one. So you can see there's a little loop here. And then back down through this hole that we made. Now, you might have to watch this again because it took me like 6 tries to get this, all right? All right, so you see, we went through here, up, through the bottom one, around, and through. We're going to tie this in a little knot. I love the little frayed look of this ribbon. Oh my gosh. I might have to keep this one for myself. I'm not a very good gift giver, am I? All right, I just tied a good knot. That will hold it in place. I will fray this up like a frayed knot. Oh gosh, terrible jokes today. All right, let's do the other side and follow this. So this first side will go through the hole. I kind of like that bar tack idea. It looks nice on both sides. And then this one will be just the opposite. So, and if anyone figured out the name of this thingy-majig, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just continue calling it a thingy-majig. No, it's not a Brother product. All right, let's get all that through here. That frayed stuff is a little bit of a... So Mary Stevens, I'm thinking your idea of finding like a nice, thin, soft would work really good. All right, I'm going to cut some of this off. Oh, you know what? I have a piece of tape right here. If you have something like this, just rub a piece of tape around it. The old reliable. And then squish her through. I know I'm waiting for my sisters to leave me a message on here, or my mom, or my sister-in-law, because I'm pretty sure they're at the beach watching this, laughing, wondering who's going to get this beautiful bag. All right, let's go through the bottom, right next to your other one. Hold the other side. Give it a little tug. And now I'm going to go back in the top layer. And don't worry, you can rewind this and do this as many times as you want till you get it right. I think this was the trickiest part of the whole bag. All right, back through. So it went from here, down through the bottom layer, up through the top layer, out. You'll end up with like a little bit of a edge right here. And then back through. All right, let's pull this off. All right, so if this is the bottom of the triangle, I want to tie this into, I'm going to do a double knot. You could even add, a sew and stitch or something on there if you want to make sure it stays. I think I see some glue coming in action on this one. All right, and then I'll fray this up like this side is. Okay, so here's the bottom of the bag. And now, here are the two sides. Now take that little lip on each side and give it a tug. And then this side. Oh my goodness, I'll get it. I'll come in person and do this. This is so funny. It's not looking the way it's supposed to, but it will in 1 second. You'll see. Here we go. I pulled the wrong buttons. Oh gosh. All right. I thought so too, Mandy. So, as you can see here, this is the one that's finished. And when you pull these two long edges, I pulled the short one. That doesn't work. So let's go back here and pull the long edges. And see, because I have that trim, it's a little bit tighter than the other one. This pink trim that's a little bit thicker. And then pull this side. So I pulled the loops. You weren't supposed to pull the loops. The loops are supposed to be there. All right. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. There's my loopy. I could wear this as a backpack or tie it together like this. And once I have a bunch of stuff in here, like my sunscreen and my wallet, I think I have crayons here I'm supposed to take home. But didn't this turn out super cute? I love it. Yes. Off to the beach, off to the gym. But don't forget, you got to pull the right strings, not the loopy loop. All right, any questions for me? Because I could not see all your questions while we were making this. I'm dying to see if any of you make this. This is so much fun. But you know what I'm really loving? The idea about putting a big old monogram here. I just think this is going to be fun. So this is the bag. Now we're off to the beach. I think the girls will love it, Susie, as long as I don't keep it for myself. No, I won't, because I'm sure they're watching. And then the blue one, is Carter gets the blue one. Yeah. The other boys, I got to figure something else out. Any questions for me? Because this was super fun popping in with you today. And yes, I was live, and I told you I wasn't going to be, but they were transitioning from fishing to the beach and the pool. So why not hang out for an hour with you? Brother, thank you for letting me take over your page. Do I sell the mess? Hey, Cheryl, I don't. But if you message me, I can tell you where I got it. It's a very common fabric store. So just go to there. It was called a utility fabric, which I don't know why, but it was. Thanks. Fun and cute. Constantly. See, Patty, you totally needed this bag. Deborah, what stabilizer would you use if you embroider? I don't think I would embroider it on itself. I mean, you could, but for something like this that's going to get a lot of heavy duty use, I would do an applique. So I would find maybe a pink denim or a pink cotton fabric, something thicker, and do an applique. And that would look really nice. And then that fabric that's a little thicker on here would give this stability. So otherwise, the letters are going to go wrinkle, wrinkle, and you don't want that. So applique would do it. Can you find where to buy that tool? Mary Lou, I'll look. I've had it for like 20 some years. I don't even know what it's called. That's why I call it the thingy-majig, but I'll do some checking. Thanks, Mary. Great to see you. Now, wait. So now you probably are all saying you use mesh all the time on your sleeves and embroider. Well, if you're putting it for sleeves or something like that that has stability, then use like a wash away. But this is going to be heavy duty. So, all right, I'm off to the beach. I got to go catch up with the kiddos. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you for letting me hang out with you. For those of you that are looking for me here or brother, there's Brother Sews, Angela Wolf, either1.com. You can find all of the great blog posts. If you share photos of this, be sure to tag us. We would love to see it. And if you have questions for me, I have not sent a newsletter out this week, but I will be next week. So if you're not on the list, be sure to sign up and you'll find out. I think a patch, Jane, that's kind of like an applique, would look great. $2 a yard, Brenda? Whoa, that's a good deal. A drawstring threader. Hey, Zena, how brilliant. That's what it is. All right, perfect, guys. Have a wonderful day. Great to see you. And next week, we've got live shows Tuesday and Thursday at noon. Nephi's making a summer dress. And I'll be on live on Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you in Fashion Sewing Club. We're meeting next week as well. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.